How's it going, folks? Hope y'all are doing well. I'm sorry about the extended break I was on. Please understand I'm venturing down a new career path right now, thanks to my former tyrannical bosses over at Google. And at least at the beginning of my journey, it will require a lot of my what should be personal time. Okay, now let's dive into the meltdown in the Middle East. So with Afghanistan on fire, the airports in utter chaos, and uncertainty on how all U.S. personnel will make it out alive, the recriminations for what is still transpiring are in full swing. You'll be less than shocked to learn that some are blaming our former but should-be President Donald Trump, who hasn't been president for the last 7 long, historically humiliating months. On the other hand, those living within the confines of our current reality are pointing the finger where it belongs towards the current fraudulent President of the United States. This probably goes without saying, but it feels wonderful to be able to say that out loud without any repercussions. I feel a fresh sense of freedom, like a 6-year-old learning his first curse words. Fraudulent. Illegitimate. Joe Biden is not my president. Oh, how liberating. Sorry, I will try to contain this newly found freedom. While Joe Biden has previously taken credit for his supposedly fabulous withdrawal plan, he's now desperately trying to pass the buck, be it to Republicans or perhaps his own vice president. More on that idiot later. Yet things look to be even worse than they first appeared. Reports are coming out that the Afghan Air Force couldn't operate because the Biden administration banned foreign maintenance contractors, i.e. the only people with the expertise, from entering Afghanistan. Friends, I'm going to point out the obvious. It seems like big government and big tech are trying to destroy America. Everything they touch turns into a disaster. Pretty soon the whole system will fall apart, and the first thing to fall will be the food supply chain. So, do you have enough emergency food to get through a serious long-term crisis where you can't get food at the grocery store? Most people don't, and they'll panic when the time comes. That is why the smart move now is to get long-term storage emergency food before things go bad. I highly recommend My Patriot Supply. They've served millions of American families and have over 41,000 4-star and 5-star reviews. Their mission is your survival. And right now, you can save 25% on a 4-week kit of emergency food that will save the day, probably soon. Order a starter kit for each member of your family, and they'll ship everything quickly and discreetly to your door. Go to preparewithresurgence.com so you can claim your 4-week emergency food kit and save 25% in the process. That's preparewithresurgence.com, or hit that link in the description box. Brian Dean Wright, who you may have seen appear on Tucker Carlson several times, tweeted out the Afghan Air Force didn't take flight because, God help us, Joe Biden refused to let outside maintenance crews into Afghanistan, effectively grounding the fleet. He also shared part of an article out of the Daily Beast. If you're not familiar, the Daily Beast is further left than the Washington Post or the New York Times. Quote, the country's mostly U.S.-provided air fleet was dependent on foreign contractors to assist with maintenance. As the U.S. withdrawal took hold, the Biden administration refused to allow contractors into the country to service the aircraft, effectively grounding some of the Afghan Air Force at the same time as the U.S. had withdrawn direct air support to Afghanistan forces. You see, helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft do not just run into perpetuity. That's especially true when dealing with military variants, which can often require many hours of maintenance for every actual flight hour flown. So our lovely Drooler-in-Chief effectively grounded it and took them out of the fight by banning foreign contractors from helping the Afghan Air Force maintain its fleet. And while they weren't flying the latest and greatest, A-29 aircraft and Mi-24 Hens along with other light attack helicopters the Afghan Air Force had, they would have been very useful in trying to hold off the Taliban as they advanced towards Kabul, even if temporary. Now, this revelation follows a very obvious disturbing pattern that has arisen within Biden's withdrawal strategy. It appears that no care whatsoever was given to ensuring the Afghans could, or were even allowed to, maintain the logistics needed to operate after U.S. forces left. But hey, now General Milley and crew have their priorities in order up there in D.C., right? I mean, Black Lives Matter and trans bathrooms or some nonsense, yada yada. Anyways, a military can have all the men they want, but things will always collapse without proper logistics and leadership, including ongoing maintenance of equipment. That's what appears to have happened here. The real question is why? Why the hell would the Biden administration, really ran by a bunch of out-of-touch Ivy League idiots, want to bar foreign contractors from maintaining the Afghan Air Force, thereby keeping them mission ready? Like so many other decisions this administration has made over the last 6 months, none of this makes any sense, and there needs to be a major investigation into what went into these terrible decisions in the first place. Now, will there be one? Hell no. Okay, moving on. Now, as things further deteriorate in Afghanistan, a question popped into my head. Just where the hell is Willie Brown's ex-side piece in all this? The vice president hasn't spoken publicly since the chaos started, mimicking the disappearing act she pulled early on in Joe Biden's presidency. Over the past week, she's been the subject of several hit pieces as well, likely sourced from within the White House, I'm sure. Honestly, sincerely, I would like to know her cackling response to the disaster currently playing out. Then Larry O'Connor reminded me of Harris's statement back in April on the withdrawal, and I believe it's going to be very revealing going forward as Biden looks to shiv somebody in the back to avoid blame, of course. Larry O'Connor tweeted out Vice President Kamala Harris confirmed Sunday that she was the last person in the room before Joe Biden made his decision to pull all U.S. troops out of Afghanistan. Harris says she had a key role in Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal decision. Now, is it likely true that she played a key role in the decision to withdraw from Afghanistan? No. Hell no. Once again, a mid-20s devout communist staffer looking at some insider-twisted Google Chi-Com political polling data no doubt did that. But ultimately, our Drooler-in-Chief, stumbling, bumbling Joe Biden is president, I guess, on paper, for now, to a certain segment of people, a very low IQ segment of people. Anyways, these decisions were his to make, not hers. I see no reason for Harris to present herself as being the, quote, last one in the room, unless it was to run cover for Biden. Further, I refuse to believe that the president, regardless of his obvious senility, wasn't aware of how badly this was going to go. It was just too damned obvious once again, and just like with the border crisis, Biden has made sure that his mess can be hung around his vice president's neck again. Meanwhile, Mr. Butterscotch Pudding and Yoo-Hoo himself is hiding out on vacation at Camp David with a lid called until Wednesday, because of course he is. The optics of all of this are just terrible for this idiotic administration, though hardly as relevant as the actual outcome we are seeing on the ground. Now, I think it would be fair to assume that most of you agree with me on the fact that none of this crap is happenstance. Where's the national address by Biden to tell the American people that things have changed? Where's the press conferences after the last week of our foreign policy literally collapsing? These are things a normal president would have done by now. Instead, Biden is nowhere to be found after he's smeared Harris's fingerprints all over this abortion of a withdrawal. Early on, it was assumed by many that Biden kept giving Harris the, quote, tough jobs because he was humble and wanted to see her succeed, being a lady of color and all. I always thought it was just the opposite. It looks to me like Biden and his little string pullers are cowards who don't want to show up for work and take any responsibility for anything at all. Sound familiar? Thus, the last several months of taking every contentious policy issue and making Harris the lead looks to have been purposeful. And of course, she either willfully or ignorantly, I'm going to go with the latter, walked right into the trap. Again, the next few weeks are going to be very interesting, folks. Some of this came by way of redstate.com. If you liked it, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Leave a comment down below. There's a PayPal link in the description box, so please put $1 in the bucket on the way out the door. I'd like to thank everyone for all your donations. They're much needed and they're much appreciated. Now, with all that being said, we'll see you next time.
Come on, move. Move. Easy, easy.